The Delta variant fuels a surge in COVID cases in the four-state area. We'll find out the impact on local hospitals. And a shooting investigation in Vernon County ends in the arrest of a suspect on assault and drug charges. Also, the Oklahoma School Board votes to ban the teaching of critical race theory. We'll have details.
The four states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 5 a.m. I'm Zach Dodge. We get some much-needed sunshine before the rain later this week. Let's go to Michael Hayslip with our first look at the forecast.
And we need that sun to get up because it's going to help us burn off the patchy fog that we've already experienced this morning. Now we're looking pretty clean over Range Line and 7th Street there in Joplin, so we don't have any concerns exactly once you get into the city. 63 degrees is where we stand right now. It's a little bit cooler than yesterday, surprisingly enough. It's still 61 right now in Parsons and Monette, 63 in Miami, 62 in Pittsburgh, Fort Scott, and Nevada. I was hoping we could get a look at that. Froze up on me. I was going to give you an idea of the cloud cover, the patchy fog there. Skywatch Storm Tracker with just a little light cloud cover hanging off on the eastern portion of southwest Missouri. Certainly not as thick as what we had yesterday, but like I said, it is just a little bit cooler. We've seen a 6-degree drop right there in Parsons and Girard compared to where we were at this point in time just a day ago. When we talk about our day planner, like I said, the patchy fog, it'll stick around for just a little bit. But once we get into the afternoon hours, we are looking at temperatures up into the 80s. Got a chance for, of course, a little spot of rain every now and then, but down to the south. And then it's really just a matter of staying cool for the next 2 days. Like Zach said, we got a little bit for our next big system works in. But we're going to see not only high 80s today, but low 90s on Wednesday and Thursday. Wednesday looking like our hottest day of the week, as it's going to be a little bit muggy out there before the rain kicks in Thursday evening.
All right, and yeah, on my way in, that patchy fog was pretty thick in the places where it was.
Especially you get those low-lying areas, we dive right
in
through
the hills. Yeah.
Yep.
But thank you very much, Michael. We'll check back in with you in just a little bit. Cool. The number of COVID-19 cases continues to increase in Missouri, and that's affecting Joplin hospitals. At Freeman Health System, they say their COVID numbers are reflective of what most Missouri hospitals are reporting. They say they have seen a significant jump in COVID patients in the last 7 days. Health experts warn to not let our guards down as cases continue to rise.
People need to know that, we're in a different but still very hard place with COVID here in the hospital. And I think that, the awareness of, making sure that that you social distance and you do mask, and also that you wash your hands.
Currently, Freeman Health System has 50 COVID-related hospitalizations, and that includes the hospital in Neosho. Mercy Hospital has 58. In delivering the dose coverage, the Springfield-Greene County Health Department is hoping church leaders and employers will help boost vaccine numbers. Right now, 39% of eligible people in Greene County are vaccinated. The department joined James River Church and Central Assembly to get the message out. Acting Director for the Health Department, Katie Towns, explained why this strategy is important.
Faith leaders today are partnering with us, and they have congregations full of people who they have influence and can encourage the use of this solution that will be our path to protecting not only the individuals but our community, the congregation.
We want to make sure that we have the opportunity to worship and to meet like we want to, and we can't right now because of the way that this virus is spreading through our community.
You just heard from Pastor David Jane with Central Assembly of God Church. He challenged other churches to host vaccine clinics. James River Church is hosting clinics all week at its various campuses, including in Joplin. That clinic will be Thursday, July 15th. An investigation into a report of shots fired in Vernon County, Missouri, leads to the arrest of a suspect and the seizure of multiple guns and meth. The suspect is 55-year-old Daniel Sands of El Dorado Springs, Missouri. He's accused of shooting at a rural Vernon County home on Thursday. No one was hurt in the shooting. During the investigation, the sheriff's office says they searched Sands' home, where they recovered meth and multiple guns. The county prosecutor has charged Sands with assault, 2 counts of armed criminal action, and other drug and weapon-related charges. The Montgomery County Sheriff's Office has released the identity of the man who drowned at Elk City Lake on Friday. Officials say the man is 47-year-old Craig Gilson. Emergency crews on Friday responded to calls about a man yelling for help in the swimming area of the lake, but he did not resurface. Gilden was pronounced dead at the scene. Frito-Lay union workers are now in their second week of a strike at the plant in Topeka, Kansas. They went on strike after rejecting the latest tentative contract agreement. The 2-year deal included a 2% raise at the end of each year. The company said it also limited forced overtime. As workers continue their strike, several organizations and community members have made donations to help. They include hundreds of tacos and 500 cases of water. And a striking worker says an organization is trying to pay the water bills for all the union members. The union and Frito-Lay have a meeting scheduled to discuss the negotiations on July 19th. Yesterday was the start of a hands-on summer camp to learn about robotics hosted by Pitt State. Topics covered in the camp include programming, construction techniques, and electromechanics. We sent photojournalist Sam Combrink to check it out.
Our kids work with a Lego robotics-based system, and from that they're able to build simple robots that will be able to drive forward, turn, follow a line, be able to pick things up, maybe even interact with their environment around them, finding walls turning, things like that.
Does anybody know why Lego uses all pictures and no words?
So new things that I learned today was how to build the car because it needed a lot of pieces, and I never even knew that you could build a car that actually works out of Legos. Like I never even knew that.
Basically what this is we use a Lego-based robotics system to help kids learn the basics of how to build robots, how systems work, things like motors and gears, programming, but a lot of it has to do with applied problem solving and learning teamwork strategies.
The camp will be capped off with a competition on Friday. Pitt State is hosting another camp this week called Construct Your Future. Folks in the Pittsburgh area gathered for some family fun. Life Track Church in Frontenac hosted a picnic at Lakeside Park in Pittsburgh. Everyone was asked to bring a food item. The event featured games like cornhole and a treasure hunt.
I just enjoy getting out and doing things with my own family. I have my family here, and so getting to connect with other families in the church. And you know, I'm also competitive, so there's some fun games that you get to play with that. And yeah, so just mostly though is just getting out and having an intentional thing with my family and other families.
This is the second picnic hosted by Life Track Church. It's 5:08.
We will begin our weekly warm-up today. Not going to take too long before we're up into the 80s. May even see a 90 out on the western portion of southeast Kansas. Staying on the dry side. If we see anything, it's just going to pop up down the south, real quick hitter. And then we just keep on warming up into Wednesday and Thursday as well. Wednesday looking like the hottest day of the week, about 92, feeling about like 96.
That's a look at this morning's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News, a new side effect.
A new health issue concerning the one-shot Johnson & Johnson vaccine. I'm Laura Podesto with details as more than 600,000 Americans have died from the coronavirus.
Plus, what's next after the Oklahoma State School Board votes to ban the teaching of critical race theory. And Webb City Little League softball prepares to head off to the state tournament. We'll have a preview. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back.
Joplin Outlaws picked up their first win of the second half last night, beat the Jeff City Renegades 6-4. Outlaws now just one game under 500, sitting at 12-13 overall. Joplin remains at home, meeting up with the Nevada Griffins, and Nevada wins it by shutout, 4-0. Nice night on the hill for Missouri Southern's Chase Beater. He gets the win. 6 shutout innings for Nevada, allowing just 4 hits. Webb City girls softball dominated Little League district tournaments last week, and that includes the 12 and under team, claiming a district championship to punch a ticket to the state tournament. Our own sports director, Jacob Leonard, caught up with the team last night to talk about preparing to hit the road to DeSoto.
The Webb City 12 and under softball team is heading to the state tournament.
I'm pretty nervous, but at the same time I'm more excited for having another opportunity.
It's really exciting, and I'm glad that we get to keep playing this year.
Our defense is strong and stuff, but also it's mostly our mental part of it and how positive we all stay.
Webb City claimed back-to-back district titles last week to punch their ticket to DeSoto. Last year, their season ended after districts due to COVID-19.
I really thought that we had a chance to go a long ways last year, and with the COVID hitting, all we got to do is play districts and win districts. So this year the girls have a chance to go up and go further and have a chance at state, and hopefully we can advance past state and see how far we can go.
Yeah, it's pretty cool of being able to go to state this time and maybe even making it farther.
It was a dominant week for Webb City softball of all ages. The 12 and under team joins the 8-year-old, 10-year-old, and 16-year-old teams as district champs.
You got to take yourself.
It's a very sports-oriented town. The community backs them well. They care about their kids, and they buy into it, and they invest in them. We'll just show up there and try to do our best and adjust as we go.
Webb City's first game in the state tournament takes place Friday night, 8 p.m. in DeSoto. The 2021 Major League Baseball All-Star Game tonight in Denver, as the Cardinals have 2 players in the game in pitcher Alex Reyes and third baseman Nolan Arenado. For Arenado, his 7th All-Star selection. Now, tonight's going to be special for the Cardinals infielder as he returns to Coors Field in Denver, where he spent the first 8 years of his Major League career.
It's come to my mind now. Obviously, being in batting practice now, we're going to see a lot of the fans. I got a lot of love for them, and they know that. I've said it a lot, and I always played hard for them, and that was my goal. But it's going to be cool. It's going to be great. I'm a little nervous about it again, but, it'll be a lot of fun.
Finally, Milwaukee Bucks making a series in the NBA Finals as they blew out the Phoenix Suns Sunday night, 120-100, behind a big night from Giannis Antetokounmpo. Giannis dropped 41 points, pulled down 13 rebounds, and dished out 6 assists. Phoenix still leads the series 2-1, but the Bucks at least now have a chance to even it up at 2 games apiece come tomorrow night.
I feel like in the previous game 2, there was so much traffic. I was, able to make the corner pass to guys or make the right pass, guys, but now being at home, you have a little more confidence, your legs feel a little bit better. You can finish some of those plays, but there's a lot of traffic in there. We got to keep, making the right play.
Still to come on the KOAM Morning News, a roadblock in the fight against world hunger.
Efforts to wipe out world hunger in less than a decade are under attack. I'm Kevin Cork in Washington with more on the latest UN report that shows just how bad the world hunger crisis has gotten. That's coming up.
And to check on our 7-day forecast when the KOAM Morning News returns. Good time for weather on the 7s. First things first, we got to get through some patchy fog. Certainly doesn't look too bad. It's 7th in range line, and it's not dense enough to spawn any dense fog advisories. But do want you to be apprised of those, especially for those low-lying areas. A little bit cooler than what we had yesterday. 63 degrees is where we stand right now, over 7th and range line. Let's roll 61 in Neodesha, Parsons, and Monette, so barely clinging to the 60-degree mark. 62 in Pittsburgh and 63 right now in Miami. We do have a clean Skywatch storm tracker, nothing like the cloud cover that split us in half yesterday. Remember, we still do have flood warnings up until tomorrow afternoon for the Osage and Little Osage rivers. And speaking of flooding concerns, run down to the deep southwest of the contiguous 48, and they've got massive flood warnings and watches all throughout Arizona and New Mexico. That's that system we were talking about that came across the Mexican border. As far as the Midwest goes, really got Yep. I'll try this again. Really got to get on the east side of the Mississippi to find any action. You know what? That's what I get for using the word got in that sentence. My mother always told me to try not to use the word got. Still got a split jet stream, a little bit coming in from the north right there, working its way west to east. And then we see one on the opposite side of the Mississippi, working its way through the Ohio River Valley. And then another one down to the south, almost making that swirling motion and combining with the one up top. As far as the severe thunderstorm risk map goes, interestingly enough, but not coincidentally enough, severe thunderstorm risk map mirrors where we saw those arrows on the jet stream. Our afternoon planner has us up into the high 80s. Going to be a little bit of a warm one, not only for today. We will stay on the dry side. Anything we see is down to the south, but also get ready for tomorrow, as it will be our hottest day of the week before rain shows up on Thursday night. Our Something to Talk About on the KOAM News Now Facebook page and our morning Insta poll. The Oklahoma State School Board votes to ban schools from teaching certain topics concerning race and gender. New rules are in response to a new Oklahoma law that took effect July 1, banning the teaching of what's called critical race theory and also preventing sexual diversity training at colleges and universities. Critical race theory is a more than 40-year-old academic concept with the core idea that racism is a social construct, not merely the product of an individual bias or prejudice that's embedded in legal systems and policies. Our question to you is, should critical race theory be taught in schools? Let us know what you think by going to our Facebook page or the Insta poll, KOAMnewsnow.com/vote. Be back with Health Watch next.
Topping Health Watch this morning, more than 607,000 Americans have died from the coronavirus. Health officials note that almost all new deaths are people who have not been vaccinated. But there's a new issue concerning Johnson & Johnson's vaccine. Laura Podesta has more.
A new warning about Johnson & Johnson's one-dose coronavirus vaccine. The FDA says out of the 12.8 million Americans who've gotten the shot, about 100 people developed a rare but serious autoimmune disorder called Guillain-Barré. The cases have generally been reported in men 50 and over about 2 weeks after receiving the shot.
We've seen this with one of the influenza vaccines a couple of decades ago. The good news is it looks like it's extremely rare.
The FDA says the benefits of the vaccine outweigh the potential risks.
We had this beat.
Dr. Peter Hotez notes the vaccines have allowed some areas of the country to safely resume pre-pandemic life.
Now we've squandered that opportunity partially, at least in parts of the country. If the Delta variant is allowed to accelerate, sure, I think we could see additional variants.
Since just last week, average daily cases in the U.S. are up 30%. More than a third of them in 5 hotspots.
Everyone's tired of hearing about COVID. We're tired of COVID too.
Kayla Hillis is a nurse at Cox Medical Center Branson in Missouri. The hospital is sharing video diaries from employees in hopes their messages get through.
Even if you don't think it's COVID, if you think you have a cold, give it a couple of days. Stay at home. Just see how it goes.
Meanwhile, Pfizer officials met with the White House to discuss offering a third shot to high-risk Americans. For now, the government says the booster is not necessary. Laura Podesta, CBS News.
Yesterday, Israel started giving some people a third dose of the Pfizer vaccine to at-risk adults. Another reason to brew that cup of joe each morning. Researchers from Northwestern University found regular coffee consumption of at least 1 cup daily could lower the risk of COVID infection. The results show daily consumption of 1 or more cups a day has been associated with a 10% decrease in risk of contracting the virus. Coffee is said to contain antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties. Consumption of these properties from coffee can help to ward off the virus and its worst effects. A diet rich in fermented foods such as yogurt increases the diversity of microbes in the gut and lowers inflammation. That's according to a study from Stanford University. Previous research has linked low microbe diversity to obesity and diabetes. More people are being hospitalized for heart attacks in England than in previous years. Researchers say there has been a modest increase after years of decline. They suggest the increase may be due to more sensitive tests that can detect less severe heart attacks. And there may be a new approach to treat an aggressive form of breast cancer. Researchers in Montreal identified a protein in HER2 positive breast tumors that, when blocked, makes the tumor more vulnerable to treatment and prevents it from spreading. That's a look at some of today's top health stories. You're watching the KOAM Morning News.
Got a warm one on our hands today. Temperature's going to press up into the high 80s. Should stay on the dry side. We'll be back right after this.
Coming up, the Delta variant fuels a surge in COVID cases in the four-state area. We find out the impact on local hospitals. And a shooting investigation in Vernon County ends in the arrest of a suspect on assault and drug charges. Also, the Oklahoma School Board votes to ban the teaching of critical race theory. We'll have details.
The four states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 5:30. I'm Zach Dodge, and you better enjoy the sunshine while it lasts before we start to see some more rain later on in the week. Let's go to Michael Hayslip with our look at the forecast.
All right, thank you, Zach. Let's go ahead and jump into our temperatures because it is actually a little bit cooler than what we've had past couple of days. Check out Neodesha and Parsons clinging to 60 degrees. Monette's only at 61, 63 in Joplin, and 62 in Pittsburgh. That can be a little bit deceiving compared to what it's going to be this afternoon because we don't have that cloud cover that helped us out on a Monday. We also have flood warnings for the Osage and Little Osage up until tomorrow afternoon. However, no thunderstorm activity to worry about as it'll almost mirror the arrows of the jet stream that you see. That's where you can expect the hardest rain throughout the contiguous 48 on a Tuesday. Our weather trend is going to bring us sunshine, which we need to burn off some of this early morning patchy fog and lift us up into the high 80s. And we're just going to keep on climbing up because high 80s is just about seasonable for this time of year. But tomorrow, we're going to throw up some 90s on the board. Tomorrow looking like our hottest day of the work week, and it's also going to be muggy. Now, that Gulf moisture that's going to kick in and make it feel so humid tomorrow is actually going to result in some thunderstorm activity Thursday night into Friday, but it does not do anything to help cool us down.
All right, so if someone like myself needed to get some yard work done, this afternoon might be the best time to do it this week.
This afternoon would be great. It's because it'll actually not be as hot as what it's going to be tomorrow.
Right. All right. Well, thanks for the tip and the heads up, Michael.
Also, too, got to remember, sun's not setting until about 8:40. So
right.
You can wait till the evening.
Yep.
Let it cool down just a little bit.
That is true. But thank you very much, Michael. The number of COVID-19 cases continues to increase in Missouri, and that's affecting Joplin hospitals. At Freeman Health System, they say their COVID numbers are reflective of what most Missouri hospitals are reporting. They say they've seen a significant jump in COVID patients in especially the last 7 days. Health experts warn to not let our guards down as cases continue to rise. Currently, Freeman Health System has 50 COVID-related hospitalizations, and that includes at their Neosho Hospital. Mercy Hospital has 58. Two hospitals in Springfield are seeing their largest numbers of patients since the pandemic began. But as Michael Van Schook reports, the hospitals are preparing for things to get even worse.
Put out over the last couple of weeks, we've exceeded last year's peak.
As Mercy and Cox see record numbers, there's been a continued need to adapt. Mercy just opened its 6th COVID unit for the first time.
We built our plan last year to be able to expand across units as our census grew. And so what we had to do is expand into a second ICU. So our main ICU that we keep our COVID patients on has 23 beds available. We hit 34 patients today. So we had to have that second COVID unit, ICU unit available, which we did.
Hospitals say the growing demand for beds and ventilators is connected to the Delta variant.
This disease is different. It is quicker, sicker, and younger. I would say the ramp-up time from 14 to 125 patients, which was in about 5 weeks for us, was almost triple as fast as during the winter.
As they continue to manage available resources, both Cox and Mercy say some of the most needed help has arrived. More staff.
I think we've got like 27 more nurses coming by next Monday and maybe 60 some in the next 3 weeks, which is a godsend.
Cox has 10 new respiratory therapists coming as well, and more than 80 responded to a request for help. At Mercy, 10 more physicians from the St. Louis area arrived this week.
So they'll start picking up shifts to relieve some of our in-house physicians, and they'll just be in our regular rotation. We're very grateful for it, and it couldn't come at a better time.
The additional help comes right along the time frame medical experts expect a possible rise in July 4th cases.
By July 19th, our forecasting tool are predicting between 153 and 178 patients with COVID at Cox. I don't know how we'll handle it, but we're going to do everything we can to try to handle that volume of patients. That will be a record for both Cox and Mercy.
Local health officials are now turning to faith leaders to help them step up vaccinations. Missouri State University is offering incentives for students to get their shots, and Springfield is canceling its Birthplace of Route 66 festival because of the surge in cases. The Delta variant is also fueling a COVID spike in Kansas. State Department of Health and Environment data showed that Kansas averaged 371 new cases a day in the past week. That's the highest figure since February. State officials also say there's been a 28% increase in cases of the Delta variant since Friday. In Oklahoma, health officials are urging more residents to get vaccinated. Oklahoma ranks 11th in the country for most new cases per capita over the last 2 weeks. Much of the focus is on our region, northeastern Oklahoma, where cases are rising steadily. Meanwhile, the CDC says an outbreak in April and May at a central Oklahoma gymnastics facility infected at least 47 people. Health officials didn't publicly identify the facility. An investigation into a report of shots fired in Vernon County, Missouri leads to the arrest of a suspect and the seizure of multiple guns and meth. The suspect is 55-year-old Daniel Sands of El Dorado Springs, Missouri. He's accused of shooting at a rural Vernon County home on Thursday. No one was hurt in the shooting. During the investigation, the sheriff's office says they searched Sands' home where they recovered meth and multiple guns. The county prosecutor has charged Sands with assault, 2 counts of armed criminal action, and other drug and weapon-related crimes. Some Southeast Kansas drivers faced some traffic changes after a truck tipped over on the highway. It happened at the intersection of K3 and K39 near Uniontown. The truck carrying grain tipped over, reducing traffic on the highway to 1 lane. No word on whether anyone was hurt. Eastern Oklahoma's popular nature attraction, Bathtub Rocks in Tahlequah, is now closed to the public. The Nature Conservancy owns that land, and leaders there say they made the hard decision to close after years of vandalism and illegal activity. The preserve's hiking trails and country roads will still be open for people to enjoy the reserve, though. Officials say the Conservancy hasn't decided if or when Bathtub Rocks will reopen. That's a look at our top news stories coming up this half hour on the KOAM Morning News. Why France may become the first country to mandate vaccine for all its citizens. Plus a death-defying stunt. We'll tell you about a new world record in slacklining. But first, it's 5:38.
Gorgeous shot outside of Television City as the sun's finally starting to rise, and that will mean it can burn off some of that fog that we have. Temperatures in the low to mid 60s right now, but it won't take long before we're up into the 80s before the noon hour and topping out close to 90, and we'll continue that trend all the way into the weekend. We'll be back with World Watch right after this.
With rates as low as ever, now's the perfect time to refinance your home.
Topping World Watch, at least 50 people lose their lives in a fire at a hospital in southern Iraq overnight. The incident happened after oxygen tanks being used to treat coronavirus patients exploded, according to a local health official. 33 people were also critically injured in the incident. The facility, Al Hussein Hospital, was set up to treat COVID-19 patients when the pandemic began. Iraqi President Bahram Salhi blamed the incident on, quote, corruption and mismanagement. He called for those responsible to be held accountable. Back in April, a similar fire at a COVID-19 hospital in Baghdad killed over 80 people. French President Emmanuel Macron suggests his country might consider making COVID-19 vaccines mandatory for everyone. Macron said this decision would depend on whether the situation worsens in France. The president also announced that vaccines will be mandatory for all healthcare workers. As of Monday, roughly 53% of France's population has received at least one dose of a COVID vaccine, while more than 40% are fully vaccinated. According to Wipe Out World Hunger by 2030, efforts to wipe out world hunger by 2030 are now at critical risk. That's according to the latest report from the United Nations, which cites the dramatic increase in the number of people facing hunger on a daily basis. Kevin Cork has more on what's causing the crisis and who's most at risk.
Alarming new data from the United Nations finds at least 811 million people around the world struggled with hunger during 2020, roughly 118 million more than the year before. And the problem isn't just isolated to one region.
418 million people are more undernourished in Asia, and around 282 million people are more undernourished in Africa. And in Latin America, we also seen an increase to 9.1% of the population being undernourished today.
But what exactly contributes to a hunger crisis? Experts point to three main areas:
conflict, climate extremes, and economic downturns.
And officials say roadblocks caused by COVID-19 only made tackling these hurdles more challenging, stressing more needs to be done to prevent wars, reduce impacts of climate change, and help make healthier foods more affordable and available to combat rising hunger. But the problem doesn't just include those who don't have enough to eat. The UN says billions of people are getting food but are still malnourished because they don't have access to a balanced diet.
We have 3 billion people that don't have access to healthy diets. We have significant increase in stunting and overweight and obesity.
The United Nations calls this crisis unacceptable, noting that children are usually the ones most impacted by food insecurity.
That's a look at some of your biggest headlines from around the world. Now let's toss it over to Michael for our Something to Talk About.
Thank you, Zach. This morning on the KOAM News Now Facebook page in our morning Insta poll, the Oklahoma State School Board voting to ban schools from teaching certain topics concerning race and gender. New rules are in response to a new Oklahoma law that took effect July 1. It bans the teaching of critical race theory and also prevents sexual diversity training at colleges and universities. Now, critical race theory is a more than 40-year-old academic concept with the core idea that racism is a social construct, not merely a product of an individual bias or prejudice that's embedded in legal systems and policies. Our question to you, should critical race theory be taught in schools? Right now, 91% of you say no, it should not be taught in schools. Make your voice heard by going to KOAMnewsnow.com/vote. Be back with the news you need to know before you walk out the door right after this.
Here's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. Federal health officials are warning of an extremely rare but potentially serious side effect of Johnson & Johnson's COVID-19 vaccine. The CDC has received preliminary reports of about 100 cases of people who developed Guillain-Barré syndrome after getting J&J's single-dose shot. The autoimmune disorder affects the nerves and can lead to paralysis. The FDA says the benefits of the vaccine far outweigh its potential risks. The number of COVID-19 cases continues to increase in Missouri, and that's affecting Joplin hospitals. At Freeman Health System, they say their COVID numbers are reflective of what most hospitals are reporting. They say they've seen a significant jump in COVID patients in the last 7 days. Health experts warn to not let our guards down as cases continue to rise. Currently, Freeman Health System has 50 COVID-related hospitalizations, including at their Neosho Hospital. Mercy Hospital has 58. In Oklahoma, health officials are urging more residents to get vaccinated. Oklahoma ranks 11th in the country for most new cases per capita over the last 2 weeks. Much of the focus is on our region, northeastern Oklahoma, where cases are rising steadily. One person is dead and another seriously injured after hitting a deer while riding a motorcycle. It happened at around 7:45 Sunday night, 3 miles north of Reeds on Gum Road. 29-year-old Isaac Freeland of Reeds and 26-year-old Taylor Bass of Reeds were both ejected from the motorcycle after they hit a deer in the road. Both were transported to the hospital with serious injuries. Bass was pronounced dead around midnight this morning. That's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door.
Starting to lighten up outside of Television City. Absolutely gorgeous Tuesday start. Just need that sun to kind of kick in, burn off some of the patchy fog that we've had. Temperatures ranging anywhere right now from 60s to 65. So it is in fact a tad bit cooler than what we experienced on Monday morning. But the afternoon, that will not be the case. We're going to climb up into the high 80s with a southwest breeze of 5 to 10 miles per hour. And then overnight, stay in the high 60s, low 70s, an indicator that the heat is going to be on us for the middle of the week. We're going to roll 90s beginning on Wednesday, carry us into the weekend. We'll be back with more KOAM Morning News right after this.
If you don't like heights, like myself, consider yourself warned. Slacklining is a sport that has you balance or walk on a narrow strip of nylon called a slackline. Now imagine doing that for some reason, suspended between two mountaintops. That's called highlining, and Vicky Barker has that story from London.
Some 2,000 feet above an icy, windy, rock-strewn Swedish valley, between two mountaintops more than a mile apart, on a wobbly slackline 2 inches wide, German highliner Kieran Herderick advances step by excruciating step. Almost, and he makes it, the first of 4 on his team to set the new world distance record of 1.3 miles. The effort etched on his face.
So when I got closer to the anchor of this line, I screamed loudly. I don't really know why. It's maybe a mix of emotions.
Emotions including maybe relief at not getting killed. In fact, slackliners pride themselves on their safety measures. The preparations for this feat were painstaking. It looks like daredevilry, but highliners say the sport requires team dedication to safety and a calm, almost meditative approach on that high-rise slackline, which is how Herderick did it.
So I just focused on being very slow, being extremely clean, and just reaching the end.
All pulling together. One reason everyone on that mountaintop will share this new world record. Vicky Barker, CBS News, London.
The highliners were wearing watches with GPS trackers to measure and verify the distance walked between the two anchors. And like I mentioned before, why?
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 Yeah, I have the same question. So you're not a fan of heights?
Not particularly, no. Especially not on a little 2-inch rope.
I'm exactly with you. As long as I'm enclosed, like flying in an airplane.
Right.
That doesn't scare me.
Yeah, I've flown in an airplane, and that's
like
fine.
being elevated with nothing around me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even with the safety measures.
Let's just put it this way. I didn't watch a lot of the highlights of that story because I can hear it. I didn't need to. I don't need my palms to start sweating.
Right.
At 5:55 in the morning.
Yeah, that's a little bit too early for sweaty palms.
But you asked the eternal question, Zach. Why?
Why? Yeah.
I guess because he's going to tell you because I could.
Because he could.
Because I could. Because it was there. It's the old Woody Hayes line when he went for 2 against Michigan. Why did you go for 2 there? You were blowing them out. Because I couldn't go for 3.
Sounds good.
I like to bestow some historical football knowledge on you. All right, KOAM News Now Facebook page and morning Insta poll. It's about critical race theory because as of July 1, the Oklahoma State School Board votes to ban the teaching of critical race theory. Our question to you is simply put is, should critical race theory be taught in schools? We'll kind of break that down exactly what it is here coming up just a little bit later. But right now it's a pretty overwhelming 82% of you say no, critical race theory should not be taught in schools. And we'll continue to update the poll. You can take part by going to KOAMnewsnow.com/vote or logging on to our morning show Facebook page as well. We'll be back. Let's update our look at our fog right after this. All right, here's a look at our visibility numbers. It's not too bad. It hasn't brought about any dense fog advisories, anything of that nature. But at the same point in time, it certainly does exist in low-lying areas. There's a live look outside of Television City right there down on the horizon. You can tell where it's just kind of hovering right above the ground. Temperatures today, give that sun a little bit, it'll begin to burn it off. We'll make it up into the high 80s, throw up a 90 even on the western portion of southeast Kansas, and then cruise to the 90s all the way into the weekend.
Coming up, the Delta variant fuels a surge in COVID cases in the four-state area. We'll find out the impact on local hospitals. And a shooting investigation in Vernon County ends in the arrest of a suspect on assault and drug charges. Also, the Oklahoma School Board votes to ban the teaching of critical race theory. We'll have details.
The four states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 6 a.m. I'm Zach Dodge, and joined with me every morning, Michael Hislop in the Skywatch Weather Center.
We are off to a gorgeous, gorgeous start, Zach. Minus what you and I were talking about with that fog, but we're getting better and better. Our visibility numbers are just simply as we progress through a morning. That 7th and range line right there in Joplin, 63 degrees. We're actually about 4 to 5 degrees cooler than what we had Monday morning, but certainly not too bad. 63 in Lamar and Carthage, throw Miami in there as well. Pittsburgh and Neodesha and Parsons only at 61 degrees. Do not have that cloud cover, though, that we had yesterday either to slow us down from warming up. We do still have the flood warnings for the Osage and Little Osage rivers. Take your pick as far as where the jet stream arrows are the strongest, and that's where you're going to see the majority of the thunderstorm activity for the U.S. on this Tuesday into Wednesday, and so it kind of leaves us out of everything. Does not leave us out of the heat, however. Sunshine going to pick up, warm us all the way up into the high 80s. See a 90 out on the western edge of southeast Kansas here this afternoon. And then overnight, clearing back off, but remaining very, very warm. We'll only be down in the high 60s, low 70s. An indicator that Wednesday is probably going to turn out to be our hottest day of the week, as we'll make it up around 92 and feeling about like 96 during Wednesday afternoon.
That's going to be pretty hot, 96.
Humidity is going to begin to kick in. Especially tonight into tomorrow.
Right. Well, thank you much, Michael. The number of COVID-19 cases continue to increase in Missouri, and that's affecting Joplin hospitals. Mercy health professionals say this most recent surge is almost identical to peak COVID infection levels last fall and winter. They say they continue to see COVID hospitalizations increase. Health experts continue to stress the importance of being vaccinated to help resolve the surge.
A surge that isn't going to resolve quickly, but will resolve if we can increase that vaccination rate to slow down the circulation of the virus.
Currently, Mercy Hospital has 58 COVID-related hospitalizations. Freeman Health System has 50, including at their Neosho Hospital. Freeman Health System is offering a COVID vaccine clinic today to help ensure kids are protected when they return to school. The drive-through clinic will provide first dose vaccines at 1221 McIntosh Circle from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. To schedule a time, parents can go online to freemanhealth.com or call 417-502-SHOT. A parent must be present when a juvenile receives the vaccine. A 15-minute observation period follows the vaccination and can be done in your vehicle. Now, second doses will be given on Wednesday, August 11th. Children 12 years old and older are currently approved to receive both the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines. A devastating loss for a Scott City, Kansas family leaves them with many questions. Abel Zapata died in Wichita this past Tuesday after a visit to the dentist office. His mother says she's working to learn why her son died after he went in to have teeth extracted and treated because of cavities. Sean Logging spoke with the family about the impact of the loss.
Abiel Zapata made sure to keep life fun.
He'd always love to be jumping and running around. He was the one that would get them to do the same. You know, he was a troublemaker.
That's making the absence of this 3-year-old very definable.
My house doesn't feel the same without him.
Abiel's mother, Nancy Valenzuela, says it's a loss that is still hard for her and her family to process, including explaining it to Abiel's younger brother.
And he pointed up, and he said that he was with God. So it brings kind of comfort to me, but it just hurts me that he knows.
While faith has provided them with strength.
I don't know why it was my son, but I know God had a purpose.
Trying to get a full understanding of that why is now Nancy's mission. She says her son had no previous medical conditions to explain what happened.
His heart just stopped beating and just out of nowhere, so something must have gone wrong.
Nancy says Abiel had cavities, and after getting the opinion of 2 dentists, was referred to Tiny Teeth in Wichita. When EMS arrived, that's what told her something was wrong.
We weren't notified about him, about anything.
She says it was well after the ambulance arrived she learned something happened to her son. Wichita police said after the incident, it was believed that Abiel had an unanticipated reaction to medicine provided, and no criminal investigation is happening at this time. But for Nancy, she just keeps coming back to why.
I didn't expect to come out of there without a child. I don't think any parent ever expects to come out of it, you know, a place where you feel like they'd be secure, you know. But we did.
Nancy says she hopes this makes other parents more aware of something like this happening. Abiel would have turned 4 next month. One person is dead and another seriously injured after hitting a deer while riding a motorcycle. It happened at around 7:45 Sunday night, 3 miles north of Reeds on Gum Road. 29-year-old Isaac Freeland of Reeds and 26-year-old Taylor Bass of Reeds were both ejected from the motorcycle after they hit a deer in the road. Both were transported to the hospital with serious injuries. Bass was pronounced dead at around midnight this morning. An investigation into a report of shots fired in Vernon County, Missouri, leads to the arrest of a suspect and the seizure of multiple guns and meth. The suspect is 55-year-old Daniel Sands of El Dorado Springs, Missouri. He's accused of shooting at a rural Vernon County home on Thursday. No one was hurt in the shooting. During the investigation, the sheriff's office says they searched Sands' home where they recovered meth and multiple guns. The county prosecutors charged Sands with assault, 2 counts of armed criminal action, and other drug and weapon-related crimes. The Better Business Bureau is warning recent college graduates to watch out for debt-related scams. The BBB says it received more than 400 reports of debt relief and credit repair scams in North America in 2020. Those scams cost consumers an average of $800. Officials say a common tactic of debt relief scams is upfront fees, including fees to enter a repayment plan. Those types of fees are illegal. Borrowers are never required to pay for assistance with student loans.
Scam companies will even ask the consumers to sign over the power of attorney for financial decisions, use it to put on the consumer's loans in forbearance, which is a way to temporarily stop or lower the payments. However, the loans still continue to accrue interest and ask the consumer to make payments directly to them rather than the loan servicer.
The Bureau says the best way to avoid debt scams is to do your homework and don't fall for promises of quick relief. It's 6:08.
We are seconds away from sunrise, which will officially be 6:09 over Joplin. And the warm-up can now begin as we'll be up into the high 80s. Not going to be surprised if we don't see a 90 on the board out on the western edge of southeast Kansas with just a little southwesterly breeze at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Overnight, may notice the wind pick up just a skosh, mostly clear and warm. And warm is going to be the key because it just keeps on getting warmer as we get into Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Going to roll a string of 90s right there. Next shot for some legitimate rain going to be Thursday night into Friday morning.
That's a look at this morning's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News, some Southwest Missouri cheerleaders get some tips from one of the best in the world. Plus, we take you inside a Southwest Missouri COVID unit and why the price of just about everything is on the rise. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back. In Consumer Watch this morning, from food to furniture, the prices you're paying have skyrocketed recently. And experts say the reason just about everything is more expensive has to do with America's spending binge. Mandy Gaither has more.
It's one of the unique features of the pandemic, the speed at which the demand for goods has rebounded, says Gregory Dacko, chief U.S. economist at Oxford Economics.
So that has led to unprecedented rapid rises in the price of certain goods. We saw the vegetable sector as well as the meat sector see increase in inflation, generally reflective of supply disruptions, but also the fact that we've seen strong demand and strong consumption from eating away from home to eating at home, and perhaps in some cases even consuming more than people were consuming before the COVID crisis.
Dacko says Americans have shifted some spending patterns toward getting more goods, including sports equipment, exercise equipment, and furniture, a rise that he says wasn't necessarily anticipated. Dacko says a combination of more vehicles on the road paired with the desire to travel more locally led to an increase in demand for gas, higher energy price inflation. Prices for cars are up too.
We saw an increase in car purchases during the pandemic, tied to a lot of the rental car companies sold off their inventory and now are facing strong demand. All the while, the semiconductor shortage has affected the ability to produce cars.
Meanwhile, Dacko says labor supply is constrained, leading to higher costs that are being passed on to consumers. For Consumer Watch, I'm Mandy Gaither.
Another sign Americans are ready to spend money. AMC, the largest movie theater chain in the world, says the past weekend was its busiest since its theaters closed in March 2020 because of the pandemic. Subway debuts a revamped menu today and to celebrate is giving away 1 million subs. Between 10 a.m. and noon, the first 50 customers at each participating restaurant can get a free 6-inch Turkey Cali Fresh sub. The new menu includes 11 new and improved ingredients, 6 new or returning sandwiches, and 2 new breads. That's it for Consumer Watch. Let's toss it over to Michael for our Something to Talk About.
Thank you, Zach. This morning on the KOAM News Now Facebook page in our morning INSA poll, the Oklahoma State School Board, voting to ban schools from teaching certain topics concerning race and gender. Now, these new rules are in response to a new Oklahoma law that just took effect July 1. This bans the teaching of what's called critical race theory and also prevents sexual diversity training at colleges and universities. Critical race theory is a more than 40-year-old academic concept, and its core idea is that racism is a social construct, not merely the product of individual bias or prejudice, and that it's embedded in legal systems and policies. The Oklahoma School Board's emergency rules are temporary, so teachers have guidelines and do not teach their own interpretation. Those rules will now have to be approved by the state legislature. Our question to you, simply put, is should critical race theory be taught in schools? This number's been pretty consistent all morning long, with 86% of you saying no, it should not be taught in schools. You can make your voice heard. You got 2 choices. You can go to the KOAM News Now Facebook page or go straight to KOAMnewsnow.com/vote. Be back with more KOAM Morning News. Update our temperatures right after this. Sun's already beginning to work a little bit of its magic here, burn off some of that low-lying patchy fog that we experienced early this morning. There's a live look outside of Television City, and now we transition to 7th and Rangeline. Haven't had any fog conditions at the intersection, obviously. 63 degrees is where we stand in Joplin. Still got some low 60s there in Neodesha, Parsons, Pittsburgh, Monette, all just barely hanging on at 61 degrees. Let's roll 63 in Miami. That's going to be a residual picked up by the sweeping radar. We don't have anything hitting the ground. And gives you an idea, though. You factor in that humidity, you factor in that fog. Yeah, it gets a little sticky out there, so we're kind of lucky our temperatures are lower than what they were yesterday. Flood warnings for the Osage and Little Osage. And speaking of flooding concerns, deep southwestern portion of the United States, actually, New Mexico and Arizona, they're just covered with flood warnings. But for the Midwest, everything really stays on the east side of the Mississippi. And you'll notice the thunderstorm risk map that we're about to pop up just about mirrors where the strongest arrows of the jet stream are. And so that won't even come close to us. We're going to stay mostly on the dry side today. If we do see anything, it'll be a pop-up raindrop down to the south. Highs in the high 80s. The warming trend, it is underway. Southwesterly breeze keeps us warm. And then overnight, temperatures only in the low 70s, high 60s. Gives you an indicator that the heat is on its way. We're going to get a taste of July here by the time it's said and done. As we push out into Wednesday, that's going to be our hottest day of the week. We'll throw up easy 90s on that one, and with our humidity probably feeling about like 96 degrees Wednesday afternoon. Thursday is going to bring us some scattered thunderstorm activity for the nighttime into Friday. Cannot back off on the temps, though. We're going to ride those 90s into the weekend. Zach?
All right, thank you, Michael. Gabby Butler is a two-time world champion cheerleader. She's been featured on Netflix, Nightline, and YouTube, so that's a pretty impressive resume. And now Butler is adding mentor to her list of accomplishments. She visited SWX Athletics in Webb City yesterday to show the next generation a thing or two. KOAM photojournalist Ty Parks was there.
1, 2, 3, snap, 5, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 5.
We've had the opportunity for many years to bring Gabby and other world champion athletes to our gym. We are fortunate enough, one of our coaches is of that capacity, of that level. And we felt with having someone in-house that is of that level, bringing one of her friends in to see kind of what they've trained.
4, 5, touch 6, 7, up 8. Everybody practice that, go. The main thing that I look for is hard work. If you have a kid that's driven, there's nothing they can't do. Like, I will take hard work over natural talent any day, because at the end of the day, hard work will always beat talent. That's what I've always said, and that's something that I think is so true. Go, 5, 7, 1, 2, 3.
Well, first I did dance, and then I saw people lifting people up, so I was like, why? I know how to do dance, so why can't I just do cheer? Just gets my emotions out when I'm sad and having a bad day.
We try to make it all about the kids, but I really just want them to take away like the good moments in cheerleading, and also just having fun and like realizing like what cheer is actually about, like the positivity, all the, you know, good things that can come out of it. 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, 1, 2, 3.
The event was a fundraiser for SWX Athletics. Different tiered prizes were awarded to those who raised the most funds. Those included a private meeting and lesson with Gabby. We'll be right back. Topping Health Watch this morning, hospitals are working to educate people on what their doctors and nurses are dealing with. Jacob Blount is in Branson, where nurses at Cox Health say why they're sharing what it's like working in a COVID unit.
Patients to balance, and you're at the door trying to get dressed so you can go in and help them, and you're trying to redirect them to put their oxygen back on their nose, and you see their oxygen levels dropping quickly. All you're trying to do is rush in there to help them.
Kayla Hillis is a registered nurse for Cox Medical Center Branson. Every day she is trying her best to save COVID-19 patients in ICU.
We have to get full PPE on, and sometimes that takes 5 to 10 minutes, and we can see the patients there that need us, that need our help. And it's really hard to not just run in and help somebody when they need it.
Hillis was the first video featured on Cox Medical Center Branson's Facebook. in a series to honor healthcare heroes on the front lines by telling their own stories.
The death rate's like 1%, 2%, sometimes 3% at different times, but that's because of the work that we do every day.
I mean, what else do we say? We're suffering along with the people that we're taking care of.
And as the tourism destination of Branson is having a profitable summer, the area has become a hotspot for the Delta variant, which is filling more and more of these beds every day.
We can't do this forever. And I'm not asking you to not see your family. I'm not asking you to stay locked in your house. I'm not asking you to not go enjoy your life. I'm asking you to please be careful.
You hear on the radio, oh, things are returning to normal. This isn't normal, and I will never accept that this will be our new normal, because nobody should ever have to live like this.
Phyllis says they're expanding the COVID-19 unit in Cox Branson today because of the urgent need. If you're fully vaccinated, you may not need an extra COVID-19 booster shot. U.S. health officials met with Pfizer representatives on Monday. A spokesperson for the Health and Human Services Department announced later that fully vaccinated people don't need to get a booster shot. Pfizer recently sought approval from regulators to release its booster doses after data showed the risk of infection increases roughly 6 months after inoculation. Many experts suggest a booster shot would only be necessary if hospitalizations and deaths among vaccinated skyrocketed. A new study says adding in more omega-3 fats to your diet and taking out some omega-6 fats may help you with headaches. The National Institute of Aging found those with diets higher in omega-3 fats and lower in omega-6 fats had fewer migraines. Omega-3 is often found in fish or some nuts, while omega-6 is found in different seeds, including peanut butter and oils in processed foods. The researchers said the diet changes worked as well for headache reductions as medicine preventatives. That's a look at some of today's top health stories. You're watching the KOAM Morning News.
Bump up in temperatures, just a degree or two since sunrise was upon us at 6:09 this morning, but we're still sitting low to mid 60s. Not going to take long though before we reach the 80s. We'll be there before the noon hour. A lot of sunshine today, going to be absolutely gorgeous. Just a little bit on the warm side, so take heed of that and get ready for tomorrow when we begin our string of 90-degree weather.
Anyone with a significant family history of coronary disease, anyone who's diabetic, anyone that has a history of cigarette use, known high cholesterol, I think all those patients need to really strongly consider a heart scan. They can walk through the door, $50, it's a 5-minute test, could well save your life. But I think, in a lot of cases, it's a wake-up call. If we're not saving your life now, we may save your life in the next decade.
Book your $50 heart scan today.
In Branson, we believe that time together is the best time of all. When you're ready, we're here for you. Learn more and start planning now at explorebranson.com.
Nothing can be more frightening than to be unsure of where you're going to lay your head at night. KARA stands for Kansas Emergency Rental Assistance. An eligible household can receive up to 12 months of rental assistance and home energy costs.
It was a big burden lifted, like, okay, I can do this.
This is a COVID-related hardship, so if you find yourself in that position, I would encourage you to apply.
Coming up, the Delta variant fuels a surge in COVID cases in the 4-state area. We'll find out the impact on local hospitals. And a shooting investigation in Vernon County ends in the arrest of a suspect on assault and drug charges. Also, the Oklahoma School Board votes to ban the teaching of critical race theory. We'll have details.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 6:30. I'm Zach Dodge. We have a gorgeous sunrise right now and a pretty good day coming up.
As the sun begins to creep over the tree line outside of Television City, Zach, waiting on it to do a little damage on that fog. Because you look right down there at the ground, it hasn't been bad. It didn't prompt any dense fog advisories or anything of that nature, but just be wary of it when you take off. There's 7th and Range Line beginning to lighten up as well. 63 degrees is where we stand. Actually, a couple degrees cooler this morning than what we had yesterday, even though the wind has shifted and it's now moving in from the south. But we still got 61s out there. 65 is about as high as we've gotten so far. Don't let these sweeping radar deceive you. We remove that. We're absolutely fine. As a matter of fact, we don't even have any cloud cover to worry about, unlike what we had yesterday. And as we get into our afternoon hours, that's where we'll see the big warm up, as it's going to be into the high 80s, if not low 90s here later on this afternoon. How about that? You guys flip over to Max 2, same 7-day. That's why I keep it up as a backup. Boom, take that technology. I'm one step ahead of you. What do you think about that? 88 degrees and warm today with sunshine. 90s begin tomorrow and carry us all the way into the weekend. Next shot for some thunderstorm activity going to be Thursday night into Friday morning.
Your computers are saying, oh no, he's bested me. What happened?
There's one just said, I'm not playing this morning.
Right.
I said, all right, guess what? Your sister's ready to rock and roll over here. I don't know what your problem is. But good job by you.
Yeah, good job.
Excellent job by you. That's why I've always said you're my favorite.
You're gonna hurt the other one's feelings now.
I'm picking sides now.
Yeah?
Live television, I'm picking sides.
Oh yeah. Thank you very much, Michael. COVID-19 cases are surging in Missouri, and local hospitals are feeling the effects. KOAM's Bronte Sorotsky spoke with disease experts at both Freeman and Mercy to see what doctors are facing, and she talked with a local woman who's working to get more people vaccinated.
Joplin hospitalizations are reaching levels seen before vaccines were even available, with more patients in critical care than before.
We have more patients on ventilators at this time than we previously did.
So what's changed, and why are we seeing this surge?
There's probably two predominant reasons. Number one, it's the Delta variant, and it's more contagious. So with that one being the one that is circulating, that increases our numbers. The other unfortunate reason is that we do not have a high percentage of our population vaccinated.
Currently, Mercy is seeing 58 COVID patients. Over at Freeman Health Systems, they're seeing about the same, with 50 COVID patients, including their Neosho hospital.
Our situation here at Freeman Health System is very reflective to what other hospitals are seeing statewide, as far as just seeing a pretty significant jump in our number of COVID inpatients.
With new COVID strains, health professionals are in a whole new ballpark.
You know, we have the presence of variant strains that are more contagious. They present with different symptoms, so symptoms that you maybe not necessarily would see as the classic COVID symptoms. They're presenting differently.
Which is why being vaccinated is the best way to stop the virus from spreading further.
To me, it's a no-brainer. You know, go get vaccinated.
One woman has been using social media to get the word out about vaccines after seeing cases rise in her community.
I've put my phone number out on Facebook for people to just call, and you know, I've transported a lot of people to go and get vaccinations. That's how important it is. And I think that every single person that is vaccinated, if you can do the same thing, put your number out there, let people contact you, friends and family, go with them, hold their hand, you know, whatever it takes.
To her, even if she can only change one mind, it's worth it. In Joplin, Bronte Sorotsky, KOAM News.
According to the Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services, 42.7% of Joplin residents have been fully vaccinated. An investigation into a report of shots fired in Vernon County, Missouri, leads to the arrest of a suspect and the seizure of multiple guns and meth. The suspect is 55-year-old Daniel Sands of El Dorado Springs, Missouri. He's accused of shooting at a rural Vernon County home on Thursday. Thankfully, no one was hurt in the shooting. During the investigation, the sheriff's office says they searched Sands' home, where they recovered meth and multiple guns. The county prosecutor has charged Sands with assault, 2 counts of armed criminal action, and other drug and weapon-related crimes. A Kansas community organized a balloon release over the weekend to remember a 17-year-old girl struck down by gun violence. The shooting death of Nevaeh Martinez rocked the Topeka community over the 4th of July weekend. At least 100 people were shot in a number of cities across the U.S. during the holiday weekend. The entire staff at a Burger King in Lincoln, Nebraska made a big statement about their jobs on the restaurant's sign. The group gave their notice resignation on the fast food restaurant sign. It read, "We all quit. Sorry for the inconvenience." The workers say they left their jobs due to a combination of staff shortages, a broken AC, and poor upper management. Their message went viral on social media.
I didn't think anybody was really going to notice it because we had just did one sign, and then it went pretty crazy on Facebook, and I got a call from my upper management, and they told me I needed to take it down. That's, it was like right at the beginning of lunch, and I was like, I don't have time to do that. We're short staffed.
Burger King released a statement saying, quote, "The work experience described at this location is not in line with our brand values. Our franchisee is looking into the situation to ensure this doesn't happen in the future." Area students are getting lessons in teamwork, programming, brainstorming, and how to make cool robots. The Kansas Technology Center at Pitt State is hosting Robotics Camp. For Pitt State, it's a chance to connect early on with potential future students. For the students, it's their chance to learn about a new field and again, how to make really cool robots.
I was interested because one day when I grow up, I want to build robots and send them to space to collect resources and stuff.
Robotics Camp runs all week. That's a look at our top news stories. Coming up this half hour on the KOAM Morning News, a political crisis in Texas.
Texas House Democrats have fled to Washington, D.C. in an effort to block a voting rights bill in their home state. I'm Laura Podesta with why they say heading to the nation's capital was the best way to protect their constituents.
Plus, should critical race theory be taught in schools? We let you weigh in for our Something to Talk About. But first, it's 6:38.
Give this a whirl again with our temperatures right now ranging low to mid 60s, a little bit cooler than what we had even yesterday, but we're going to be much warmer than what we were yesterday. That's because we don't have the cloud cover and the wind has shifted, moving in from the south. High 80s on Tuesday, 90s from Wednesday on into the weekend. Nation Watch is next.
Brave the more than...
Topping Nation Watch this morning, Democrats in the Texas legislature have fled to Washington, D.C. They're trying to halt controversial Republican efforts to overhaul the state's election laws. As CBS News' Laura Podesta explains, Democrats insist the extreme measures they're taking are because barriers being proposed would infringe upon constitutional rights.
GOP leaders in Texas are proposing cutting back on early voting, banning drive-through voting, and making it a felony for voter applications to be sent to Texas voters. This is the Texas GOP's second crack at the bill after similar legislation failed to pass in May. Texas Democrats say it disproportionately affects minorities and people with disabilities. So more than 50 staged a dramatic walkout in Austin during the special legislative session and flew to Washington, D.C.
There is nothing special about this special session. This is a suppression session. We're not going to put up with that. Democracy is on the line. The eyes of the nation are on Texas.
With the legislation still on the table, many are refusing to fly back home.
That is why we are here, because we're not going to sit in Austin, in the House chamber, and watch the Republican majority steamroll the voting rights of our constituents. So we're fighting back.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott says he's committed to getting the so-called Senate Bill 7 passed at all costs.
I will be calling special session after special session after special session all the way up until Election Day of next year if I have to.
The governor insists the Democrats who fled will face legal consequences. He says once they return to Texas, they'll be arrested and brought to the Capitol. Laura Podesta, CBS News.
At the nationwide level, Democrats last month tried and failed to pass a sweeping bill to bolster American voting rights. President Biden is expected to address the issue during a speech later today in Philadelphia. Federal health officials are warning of an extremely rare but potentially dangerous side effect of Johnson & Johnson's COVID-19 vaccine. The CDC has received preliminary reports about 100 cases of people who developed Guillain-Barré syndrome after getting J&J's single-dose shot. The autoimmune disorder affects the nerves and can lead to paralysis. The FDA says the benefits of the vaccine far outweigh its potential risks. Dozens of wildfires are now burning across the western United States. The largest is Oregon's Bootleg Fire, which has already consumed roughly 240 square miles of forest. Firefighters say they managed to contain its spread on Monday, just a day after it doubled in size. The New York Mets' Pete Alonso successfully defended his home run derby title last night in Colorado. Alonso outslugged Trey Mancini of the Baltimore Orioles in the finale. Mancini missed the entire 2020 season while undergoing treatment for colon cancer. That's a look at today's top national stories. Now let's check back in with Michael for our Something to Talk About.
Unbelievable stories. Somebody said the other day, it doesn't matter whether Trey Mancini hits 180 or he hits 320, he should be automatically the comeback player of the year.
Yeah.
Considering the 6 months of treatment that he went through with colon cancer.
For sure.
On the KOAM News Now Facebook page and our morning Insta poll, Oklahoma State School Board voting to ban schools from teaching certain topics that concern race and gender. These new rules in response to a new Oklahoma law that took effect July 1, banning the teaching of critical race theory and preventing sexual diversity training at colleges and universities. Critical race theory is a more than 40-year-old academic concept, with its core idea being that racism is a social construct, not merely the product of individual bias or prejudice, that's embedded in legal systems and policies. Our question to you is, should critical race theory be taught in schools? It's been consistent all morning long. 84% of you say no, it should not. And of course, you can take part each and every morning by going to KOAMnewsnow.com/vote or logging on to the KOAM News Now Facebook page. We'll be back with birthdays and anniversaries right after this.
We take this time to honor today's four-state hero. Gerald Pringle served in the United States Army from 1959 to 1967. A member of the military police, he's a native of Edna, Kansas. We're proud to salute Gerald Pringle, a four-state hero.
Begin our birthday list off with Decker Vitt. Toy Story 2, how fitting for our 2-year-old. Decker, have a great birthday in St. Paul.
Happy birthday, Decker. I vote for you to be cast in the live-action Toy Story movie when we inevitably get it, because that's great. Andy Johnson is turning 10 in Oswego. Happy birthday, Andy.
And in Chanute, Robert Travis is celebrating his 70th birthday. Happy birthday, Mr. Travis.
And we have another four-stater turning 70, Phyllis King in West Mineral. Happy birthday, Phyllis.
Mary David is in Walnut, and Miss David is turning 84. Mary, a very happy birthday to you.
And a happy birthday to John Bates in Arma. It's a great picture, too. Happy birthday, John.
We've got an anniversary here from Mark and Melinda Brown. They are celebrating a quarter century, 25 years. Congratulations to Mark and Melinda. Gorgeous photo right there.
Yes, it is.
They're in Carl Junction.
Great. And a happy birthday to Emily Layer in Bernal, Missouri, turning 17 today. That's a great age.
I want to know if Natalie is going to drive the Benzo when she gets older. When she gets older. Natalie Benzo, a happy 11th birthday in Girard. Brian LaRue, he's celebrating in Chanute. And the cowboy, Glenn Smith, turning 80 years old. Glenn is in Redfield. Mr. Smith is in Redfield. I always figure if your nickname is the cowboy, whenever you start a story, you got to say, now here's a guy.
Right. Oh, yeah.
That's how it should always start. Happy birthday, happy anniversary to all on this July the 13th. Here's where you can submit them to, birthdays at KOAMTV.com, or you can go to KOAMnewsnow.com as well. Here's Zach Dodge with a very important birthday announcement.
You can be part of the KOAM Birthday Club by going to our website and signing up. You can also get special deals from local businesses. So go to KOAMnewsnow.com and sign up for the KOAM Birthday Club today.
Now that sun's kicking in outside of Television City, we're
There it
starting to
is.
see that fog really lighten up. So it didn't take long. I think we'll be done with our fog by 8 o'clock. It's been gorgeous over 7th and Rangeline in Joplin, and it remains that way at the 6:50 hour. 63 degrees is where we stand right now. I've seen just a little bit of a bump in temperatures, not a whole lot yet, as we range anywhere from about 61 to 64, so no wide variety. Now let's see what happens here, Zach. This is exciting for live television. Let's remove the sweeping radar.
Yeah.
Ha-ha! It worked this time.
Nice.
Yeah, it's picking up the humidity and the fog and everything. So we just go with the old now radar. Everything looking pretty good. We still do have 2 flood warnings, so don't forget about that, folks, for the Osage and Little Osage running all the way to tomorrow. And then they've got massive flooding concerns down in the southwestern portion of the United States for Arizona and New Mexico. But as far as the Midwest goes, everything's going to stay east of the Mississippi today. When you look at the arrows of the jet stream, that shows the intensity right there. Watch how this just mimics the severe thunderstorm risk map. And since we stay out of any of the jet stream arrows, we really don't have anything to worry about as far as rain. If we do see any, it'll just be a raindrop or two on the far southern part of the 4 states. The warming trend begins today, high 80s. This future track is going to feed us plenty of sunshine. There's that green at the bottom of the screen that we were talking about if it does result in a raindrop. And then tomorrow, yeah, throw up the 90s. Tomorrow's going to be the hottest day of the week. Feel about like 96 with the humidity. And we'll carry those 90s into the weekend. Next shot for some legitimate thunderstorm activity is going to be Thursday night into Friday morning. We'll be back, wrap up this edition of the KOAM Morning News right after this. Final look at the KOAM News Now Insta poll asking, should critical race theory be taught in schools? 80% of you, we've seen that number come down just a little bit since the last time we checked. 80% of you say no, it should not be taught in schools. And remember, each and every morning you can either log on to the KOAM News Now Facebook page or go directly to our Insta poll. That's koamnewsnow.com/vote. Zach?
Now here's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. Federal health officials are warning of an extremely rare but potentially serious side effect of Johnson & Johnson's COVID-19 vaccine. The CDC has received preliminary reports about 100 cases of people who developed Guillain-Barré syndrome after getting J&J's single-dose shot. The autoimmune disorder affects the nerves and can lead to paralysis. The FDA says the benefits of the vaccine far outweigh its potential risks. The number of COVID-19 cases continues to increase in Missouri, and that's affecting Joplin hospitals. At Freeman Hospital, they say their COVID numbers are reflective of what most Missouri hospitals are reporting. They say they've seen a significant jump in COVID patients in the last 7 days. Health experts warn to not let our guards down as cases continue to rise. And currently, Freeman has 50 COVID-related hospitalizations, including at their Neosho Hospital. Mercy Hospital has 58. In Oklahoma, health officials are urging more residents to get vaccinated. Oklahoma ranks 11th in the country for most new cases per capita over the last 2 weeks. Much of the focus is on our region, northeastern Oklahoma, where cases are rising steadily. One person is dead and another seriously injured after hitting a deer while riding a motorcycle. It happened at around 7:45 Sunday night, 3 miles north of Reeds on Gum Road. 29-year-old Isaac Freeland of Reeds and 26-year-old Taylor Bass of Reeds were both ejected from the motorcycle after they hit a deer in the road. Both were transported to the hospital with serious injuries. Bass was pronounced dead at around midnight this morning. That's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door.
Cruise through this Tuesday with our warming trend now underway. Highs around 88, 89 degrees. Not going to be surprised if we don't see a 90 by the time it's all said and done. Any of the rain that you see is going to be far southern counties and quick hitter. Not going to amount to anything. Prepare for the heat to remain. Tomorrow is going to be the hottest day of the work week. Feel about like 96 on Wednesday afternoon.
Coming up at noon, we'll hear the latest on COVID-19 cases in the southwest Missouri area, and the entire 4 states.
As a matter of fact, I bet you they also have a little bit more on the morning news on KOAM with the CBS Morning News coming up next.
Or you can switch on over with us to Fox 14, where your only local morning news continues.
2 things we'll pay attention to, Zach, see if our flood warnings are actually not, instead of talking about an extension, maybe we can cut these a little short since we're going to be dry for the next 2 days.
That would be nice.
And we'll have the latest on the heat wave that's going to hit us in the middle of the week. That wraps it up for this Tuesday edition. I want you to have a great day. Enjoy some sunshine. Do me a favor. Be safe. We'll do this all again tomorrow morning.
Yes, we will.